name's Beth Williams. I'm a personal trainer and a yoga teacher. And today's class is a Warrior Fit strength training class for yogis. And I'm going to be teaching a back and core strengthening class. And there will also be some compound movements as well. The things that you'll need to gather up are your weights. I have a couple of 15-pound weights, a couple of 10s, 8s, and 5s. And then for resistance bands, I have the heaviest resistance that you may have. And then I have a medium to heavy. So the red band, the medium to heavy, is going to be for clamshells. And the extra heavy is going to be for a bridge variation, kind of a clamshell bridge variation. Also, I have a block, so if you have a yoga block, grab that, a yoga blanket as well, and some water and a towel. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. One of the things that we'll focus on at the beginning is learning how to co-contract your spinal muscles with your abdominal muscle engagement. So we'll just go ahead and start with that, and I'll talk you through it. So we'll start on the back. You don't need a blanket under your head here. Starting in what I call a bridge prep with the knees bent, the feet about hip distance apart and parallel. And if you'd like, you can have your hands on your pelvis or your arms a little bit out to the side. So we're just going to start with some pelvic tilts. So basically, you're rocking the pelvis in place. So at first, what I want you to do is just rock onto the very top of your sacrum, and you'll feel a sense of flattening or imprinting the small of your back into your mat. And then from there, I'd like for you to tilt your pelvis so that the pubic bone moves away from the navel. You'll notice that there's a curve in the small of your back. Good, the tailbone coming closer to the floor. And then we'll repeat that. So you can, on your exhalation, go ahead and come onto the top of the sacrum so your low back is imprinting into the mat. Notice how you feel some tone in your low belly and the pelvic floor. Try not to use your butt muscles to do that. And on the inhalation, rocking towards the tailbone so that there's more of a curve in your low back. So each exhale, rocking onto the top of the sacrum, the tailbone will lift. Each inhalation, increasing the curve in the small of your back. And so as you continue to do several more of these at your own pace, trying not to overdo the arching in your low back. It doesn't have to be the biggest arch that you can muster. Really, the focus is on that exhale when you're imprinting the small of your back into the mat. So often the gluteal muscles, the butt muscles, will want to take over and do this work for you. And they will get involved a little bit, but you don't want them to do the majority of the work. So we'll just do that 2 more times. So learning how to co-contract the abdominal muscles with the back muscles, front spine, back spine, is a great way to get your back muscles, your multifidi muscles, your rectus spinae muscles back online, especially if you've had some back pain or back injury. So go ahead and rest your pelvis into neutral here.
And then we're going to now do some spinal articulations. So think of a strand of pearls on the ground that you're just slowly lifting up one pearl at a time. You're going to do that same action with your spine. So we'll start off on the inhale by lifting the tailbone, imprinting the small of the back into the mat, and then slowly start to pick up the rest of your spine, starting from the low back, slowly mid back, slowly to the upper back, until you have a bridge position here. And then on the exhalation, slowly unraveling your spine down one vertebra at a time. Nice and slow. Can you really do one vertebra at a time? Now it's okay if you use your butt muscles here. Each inhale, pick up the tailbone, slowly pick up the sacrum, the lumbar, one vertebra at a time, the thoracic spine, one vertebra at a time, and then slowly, with control, unravel the spine back down. And you can feel how, especially when you start to lower the low back and the pelvis, how the abdominal muscles deep within the body engage. So let's do 3 more like that. So one of my teachers talks about how our multifidi muscles, the muscles along the spinal column, when we have back injury, those muscles actually go sleepy, or they get offline, if you will. You can equate it to, remember your old Christmas tree lights that would, when one of them went out, then the whole strand would go out. And so this type of work that we're doing right now is a way to change out that light bulb that's no longer working, put a new one in, and the whole strand will light back up and your back will start to feel better. Okay, so we should be finishing up with this last repetition. And once your pelvis has returned back to the floor, back to neutral, I'm going to have you rock and roll up or roll to the side and grab your heaviest band here. And we're going to place the band around the upper thighs, just right above the knees. Come back into that bridge prep position. And we'll start off with the feet about as wide as the hips. It's okay if the feet turn out slightly. Don't turn them in, just have them slightly turned out. And you can feel the resistance of the band here. So level 1, you can work with, as you exhale, press the thighs out, keeping the pelvis in neutral. Try not to tilt the pelvis. Inhale, slowly bring the legs back into the starting position. Don't let the band snap your legs back in. So you'll work with that. Those of you that are just working at an easier pace or an easier level. Those of you that want a little bit more, as you exhale, you're going to lift your hips and press your thighs out into the band. And it's okay if the inner edges of the feet come up a little bit. And then coming back down. So let's exhale as we lift the hips and press the thighs out. If you're keeping the hips down, that's fine. You'll inhale as you bring the legs back in, lowering the hips down if you lifted them. Good, keep going. And you're not lifting your spine as high as you can. You're just lifting your hips about 6 or 8 inches for those of you that are lifting. Also, we are not articulating the spine one vertebra at a time when we lift, nor are we lowering one vertebra at a time. We're really just trying to maintain a neutral lumbar curve the whole time that we're doing this. And as you can feel probably now, your outer hips closer to your pelvis, and your outer thighs all the way down to the knees are working. Let's do 2 more. Last one. Okay, excellent. Now walk your feet in so that your inner edges of your feet are together. And we'll do the same sort of action that we did in the previous set. You can either keep your pelvis down, maintain neutral spine, and as you exhale, take the thighs out, just like we did in the previous exercise. Or when you're exhaling and taking the thighs out, you can lift your pelvis. Maybe a little more, but it's not your biggest bridge. Exhale, press out, possibly lift the hips. Inhale, lower down. We'll do 12 repetitions. Now for me, this is easier. This is an easier movement than what we did previously where the feet were wider. But it might not be the case for you. Another thing you might notice as you start to fatigue is that when you go to lower the pelvis down, that one side will want to lower down at a faster rate compared to the other. So as best you can, trying to lower your pelvis down equally right and left. And we'll finish off with 1 more repetition. And then once the pelvis is down, let's go ahead and take that thick band off and be thankful that we're done with those, right? Okay. So now next up, let's go ahead and rock up. Just go ahead and set the band aside. So one of the next things that we're going to do is a great way to strengthen the low back and the muscles along the spine, and in addition, working with that co-contraction of the abdominal wall. So again, great work for the multifidi muscles. I just love saying that word, multifidi. You look it up online, it's really neat seeing how those muscles connect to your spinal column on the sides, and they kind of thread up in little sections, like one vertebra and then the next 1, 2, or 3, and then there's another set that starts vertebra above and connects to the next 2 or 3 vertebra. So, okay, let's start off in tabletop. So that your hands are under your shoulders, your knees are under your hips. Now this is not your normal bird dog pose, so bear with me here as I instruct you. Maybe the focus will be different for you, so be curious and listen. With the arms straight and strong, not locked, we'll take the right leg back so that the right leg is parallel to the floor. The hips are level to the floor. Now on your exhalation, before you start to round your spine, bring your right knee forward towards the navel, and then start to round your low back, then your mid back, then your upper back, and lastly, bring your nose in towards your knee, your right knee. Okay? So inhaling, right leg comes back into extension. Try to find a neutral spine, looking down between your hands. Exhale, bring your knee forward. Once the knee is right under the navel, then you can start to round your low back, mid back, upper back, and then lastly the neck and the head. Good, repeat. Inhale, right leg back into extension, neutral spine. Exhale, bring the knee in towards the navel, then slowly round the back. Last to come in is the head. Good, inhale, re-extend. Exhale, knee in towards navel, nose in towards the knee. Let's do 5 more like that. Find a nice rhythm with the breath. Moving slowly and control. Last 3. I like to envision that I'm moving through a big vat of honey. Imagine how slow you would have to move through a big vat of honey. Or maybe a swimming pool, so that you're feeling that you're resisting water. Okay, last one here. Good, go ahead and lower that knee down. Let's take the hips back into child's pose. We'll just give the hands a little bit of a break so that your spine can lengthen, and if it feels okay to round your spine, you can round your spine. Okay, second side, come back to tabletop. Neutral spine to begin with. Inhale, extend the left leg back behind you. Keep the hips level to the floor. Exhale, left knee comes in towards the direction of the navel. Round your back. Bring your nose in towards your knee. Inhale, re-extend, neutral spine. Left leg parallel to floor. Exhale, knee comes in. Round the back. Nose in towards the knee. Good, keep moving at your own pace. Moving slowly. With control. And 5 more. Stay with your breath. Finally starting to feel my abdominals fatiguing. That means this is working. Last repetition, you guys. Good, and then return the left knee down. Let's take the hips back into child's pose. Feel free to round the spine. Awesome. All right. So, we'll go ahead and clear the blanket. So let's work with some more abdominal engagement with forearm plank roll-ups. So really isolating now the abdominal wall. So you'll want to come onto your forearms. Walk your legs back so that your elbows are under your shoulders, your pelvis is to the floor, legs are straight and strong. Feel free to interlace your fingers if you would like here. And press the elbows down so you have more of a lift in your chest here. And then keep your knees on the floor the whole time here. Keep your tops of your feet on the floor the whole time here. And we're just going to take a breath in. And as you exhale, bring your chin in towards your chest a little bit. Start to peel up your low ribs, your navel, then your hips, then your thighs. And as you inhale, you'll unravel down, thighs, pelvis, navel, ribs. As you exhale, chin in towards the chest, peel up, belly, pelvis, thighs. Hold for just a moment at the top there. And slowly, try not to give up your control as you lower down on the in-breath, coming back into a Sphinx position to articulate the spine. And we'll do that 3 or 4 more times. And bring the exhale as you lift. keep the knees down. You'll get more core engagement if you keep the knees down. Inhale as you lower. I find that this is more effective than a crunch. I don't do sit-ups anymore. I don't think I've done a full sit-up since high school. I've always been really hard on my back. Okay. Wow. Feeling a really good warmth in my abdominals now. So we've worked the front spine, we've worked the back spine. Let's give the core, the arms a little bit of a break. We'll come back to that again here shortly. But let's just take the hands underneath the shoulders, push ourselves up, come into a downward facing dog pose just for a moment. Lengthen the spine. Awesome. Go ahead and lower your knees down and grab your weights that you would use for bicep curls and overhead presses. So it might be the same weight. It might be your 5s, might be your 8s. You might use different weights. So I'm going to go 8s for bicep curls, and I might use 5s for overhead press, depends on how my shoulders are doing. Okay, I'm going to grab the weights first. Go ahead and come up into a tall kneeling position. So you're standing on your knees basically. Okay, so remember all that core work we did? So take a breath in, and then on your exhale, feel a sense of you drawing your abdominal muscles in. Good, turn your palms to face forward. Awesome. On your next exhale, we'll curl for bicep curls, nice good firm grip here. Inhale, keep your elbows in towards your sides as you straighten your arms. Exhale, curl. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, curl. So best you can, try to keep your body super still, like your body is fixed in concrete. The only thing that's moving is your arms. So working the front of the upper arms. So you might have noticed in the other Warrior Fit videos that I don't do a lot of focus on the biceps. I think it's because, well, I know it's because we use our biceps a lot throughout the day. Carrying things, holding things. So I don't typically isolate the biceps as much because they work a lot already. Okay, that's 15. But occasionally I do like to bring that into the workout. So I'm just going to set those aside. And for my overhead press, I'm going to switch over to 5s. So I'm just going to bring those closer in. And I'd like for you to step your right foot forward here, so that your right heel is below the right knee. The left knee is below the left hip. And let's go ahead and start off with the palms facing forward, the elbows about 10 degrees in front of the shoulders, the fronts of the shoulders. And when you're ready, keeping those forearms vertical, exhale, press up and slightly in. Inhale, lower down to about 90-degree bend in the elbows. Exhale, press up and in. Good, keep going. So you're going to feel that there's transfer of weight from one leg to the other. So as best you can, really try to stay firmly rooted through that right foot and that left knee. Let's do 3 more here. So we're going to keep going, but I want you to switch so that your right knee is on the floor and your left foot is forward. So I'm just going to do that without putting my hands on the floor, but if you need to put your hands on the floor to switch, that's fine. Okay, so the left foot is forward, and when you're ready, set back up there for your overhead press. Ready? Inhale first, exhale, press. Now you might have picked too heavy of a weight first time around or too light of a weight. First time around, feel free to switch those out at any time. Three more. Last one. Okay, so just set those fives down. Let's come back into tall kneeling for bicep curls. Grab your weights for your bicep curls. Standing up onto the knees here. Lift the chest, eyes forward. Take a breath in first. Exhale, curl. Inhale, straighten the arms. Exhale, curl. Okay, find a rhythm here with your breath. And minimal rocking through the body. Starting to get a little difficult. 5 more if you can. Last 2. And last one. Okay. Set those down. All right, I'm just going to take a little sip of water and then we'll move on. So we've done quite a bit of upper body work. Let's switch out to some lower body work here. We'll do a single arm, single leg deadlift. So I'm going to grab my 15-pounder, one of them. Okay, make sure there's nothing around me in case I lose my balance. I don't want to trip or fall. Okay, so I'm going to hold onto this weight with my right hand. I'm going to go ahead and make sure my right shoulder is set and engaged, shoulder blade retracted towards the spine. I'm going to shift my weight over into my left foot. That's going to be my standing foot, my standing leg. Take the right leg back into extension. So if this doesn't work for you, the single leg deadlift, you can do a kickstand deadlift where your right foot is back so that when you hinge, your right foot stays on the floor. Okay? Otherwise, single leg deadlift, as you inhale and hinge, the right leg goes back. So using your butt muscles, low back muscles, core muscles, and as you exhale, you stand. And you can rest your right toes onto the floor in between repetitions. Okay, so 10 all together. Inhale at the top of the movement. Inhale as you hinge, getting my breath mixed up today, and exhale as you return back to standing, back to upright. I always say I had a 50-50 shot on guessing, right? Even though I know these things, But sometimes you get on autopilot, right? You say the wrong thing. It's about halfway there, guys. I like using one weight because it does kind of throw you off balance. It makes you less stable. So you have to work more of your stabilizers. Last two. And that leg that's lifted, or the leg that's back, really keep the glutes and the hamstrings and the low back engaged. All right, I'm going to switch other side, holding with the left hand. Retract that shoulder. Root into the right foot. That's the standing foot, standing leg. Just take the left leg back into hip extension just a little bit, or set up for your kickstand, single leg deadlift. All right, here we go. Inhale, hinge from your right hip. And exhale, rise. Inhale, hinge. Exhale, rise. Inhale, hinge. Exhale, rise. Hinge. Equal weight into those four corners of your standing foot. 5 more. Remember to use your glutes on that lifted leg, on that back leg. Last time here. Okay, good. So let's make our way down. And we're going to start off on the left elbow forearm for a forearm side plank. So that left elbow underneath the left shoulder. Rotate the forearm out a little bit so the fist is pointing towards the upper corner of the mat. And the knees are bent here as option 1, the knees stacked. Option 2, the legs are straight. So I'll let you decide. And we're gonna hold for 30 seconds. So if you have your knees bent, you'll keep your shin on the floor as you lift your hips, your waist, push the floor down away from you. You might lift your top hand up towards the sky. You might look up or forward. Good, and lower down. Okay, if you bent your knees, you might decide to straighten for the second set. Not second side yet. Second set, we're doing 2 in a row. I know, your arm's probably tired. You ready to go? And lift your hips. You might take your top hand to your hip. You might take your top hand towards the sky. Keep pushing the floor away from you. I know I have to reset. I feel like my elbow's too far out. There we go. That's better. So really working the side core, the obliques. Good, lower the hips. And we'll turn around and do the other side. So I'm going to start with that right elbow right underneath the right shoulder. Rotate the forearm out about 45 degrees. Stack the knees. Keep the bottom shin to the floor. and lift the hips. So trying to keep the hips level. You don't want to have your torso or your hips rotating forward. You also want to try to keep your shoulders stacked, one on top of the other. And keep pushing the floor away from you so you're working your serratus muscles. Good, lower down. And then if you want to try for second set to straighten your legs, try to make a straight line between your feet, your hips, and your shoulders and ears. And we'll lift. To kind of shore up here a little bit. Keep pushing the floor away from you, lifting your hips up towards the ceiling. 10 more seconds. Smile. Okay, slowly lower down. Don't crash boom down. Okay, so let's work the outer hips next. So you'll grab your red band, place it around your feet, and then just right above your upper, your knees, your upper thighs above your knees. We're going to go to the first side. Okay, so you can either put your elbow underneath your shoulder, if that feels better for you, or you can lie down, have your arm underneath your head here. So in clamshells, the knees are bent, the hips are level, and as you exhale, you're going to lift that top knee and thigh away from the bottom thigh. Keep the inner edges of the feet together. For a little more of a challenge here, you might lift your waistline just a little bit away from the floor. You might even take your top hand up towards the ceiling. Keep going, we're going for 20 repetitions here. So last 5. Last one. Okay, let's flip-flop around to the other side. You can either have your elbow underneath your shoulder on that bottom side, or you can use that bottom arm as a hand or pillow to rest your head into. Knees are bent about 90 degrees, inner edges of the feet stay together. Pelvis is stacked. Waistline is lifted away from the floor a little bit. Okay, ready? Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Working those outer hips. You might even take your top hand to your hip, or reach the top hand towards the sky. Halfway there. Good, last 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, excellent. So go ahead and bring yourself up. You can take the band off of your thighs. And we're going to grab our weights for a chest press. So I'm going to use 15s today. You can use 10s or 8s if that's what you're working with. So starting with the knees bent, the weights onto your thighs,
And then rock and roll back.
Onto your back, feet to the floor, knees bent, neutral pelvis. Set your shoulders. Inhale, bend your elbows 90 degrees, lightly tap the floor. Exhale, press up. Inhale, lower. Exhale, press. Inhale, lower. Exhale, press. Inhale, lower. Exhale, press. Inhale, lower. Exhale, press. 10 more. Exhale as you straighten. Last 5. Last one. Rock and roll up. All right, we'll set those down and let's do a tabletop row. So I'm just gonna grab my blanket, place the blanket underneath the knees, move my weights so I have more room. Okay. All this crawling around on the floor, it's got to be good for the core, right? Think about when you watch a baby learning how to do cobra or locust. They're learning how to, lift their body up and then crawl around. They're working so hard. It's always really cool to watch them learning how to crawl and roll over. Okay, here we go. So we'll have one weight in each hand. I'm using 15s today. I'm just gonna alternate that tabletop row. And neutral spine. Take a breath in before you start. Exhale, lift right arm. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift left. Inhale, lower. So keep alternating. Remembering that we're working the rhomboids, trapezius, the lats in a row. And so we're working to bring the shoulder blade towards the spine as we pick up that weight and bend the elbow. Keep going. I know it's hard after doing chest presses to do these. Best you can, maintain your neutral spine. You're looking straight down. I might not get to 15 repetitions with this weight today. See if we can get about 3 or 4 more in, guys. If you can do more, great. One more each side, if you can. Whew. Awesome. I'm gonna take a drink of water, towel off a little bit. I'm actually starting to sweat. All right. So we'll come back up to our feet for some squats. Just move the blanket aside. I'm going to use one 15-pound weight, holding on to the outer edges of the dumbbells here. The weight just right at the upper chest. Find the squat stance that works for you. Okay, ready? Inhale, sit your hips back. Keep your spine neutral all the way up to your neck and your head. Exhale, up. Straightening the legs, standing tall. Inhale, squat.
Find the depth that feels like you're still in good form. From your feet all the way up to your head. Halfway there. Five more. Two more. Last one. Okay, set your weight down. Just take a little moment. Heart rate's pretty high up there. At 120, so just gonna take a moment. If you feel your heart rate's fine where it is and you want to keep moving, you can always march in place. We are going to be doing a deadlift next with the feet hip distance apart, both feet on the floor for a suitcase deadlift. So we're going to work with 15s today. Starting with the feet hip distance apart, weights next to the sides, shoulders retracted, eyes forward. Ready? As you inhale, hinge from your hips. The weights just slide down in front of the shins. Shoulders retracted. Exhale, up. Inhale, hinge. Keep those shoulders engaged. Keep the spine neutral. That's 5. Last one. Okay, set those down. Actually, if you're going to use 15s or the weights that you're using for chest press, go ahead and just have those close by. And we'll make our way onto our back. You might also want to have your block close by for the core exercise. Okay. So, I'm going to grab my 15s for chest press. Get myself ready. Rock and roll back. Arms straight up, feet to the floor, shoulders rooted. And here we go. Inhale, bend your elbows, 90 degrees. Exhale, press. Exhale, press. Find your strength, find your power. Working towards 15. Last 5. Finishing up. Weights to the thighs, rock and roll up. Good. Okay. So just set those aside. Excellent.
Excellent. Let's take our block and we're going to lie on our back and have the block in between our shins, like this. Lying back, the knees are going to be bent 90 degrees. The arms next to the sides, maybe a little further out. Squeeze the block. Feel your inner thigh muscles engaging. Neutral spine. Keep squeezing the block. On your exhale, lift your feet so that your shins are parallel to the floor, knees above the pelvis. Low back is neutral. Inhale, lightly tap your feet to the floor, just barely touch the floor. Keep that 90-degree bend. Exhale, lift, knees above the pelvis. Inhale, tap the feet. Exhale, lift. Keep going. Now, if this is too easy for you, you can straighten your legs and keep them straight the whole time. And in that case, you might not touch the floor with your feet. You also might not be able to get your legs vertical if your hamstrings are tight. So if you've straightened your legs and these start to feel difficult or there's pain in your low back, go back to the bent knee version. We'll do 5 more. Last 2. Grab the block, set your feet down. Okay. Let's do an inner thigh exercise. Side lying. So just rolling to the side so you can face the camera here. And I'm actually going to use my bottom hand as pillow to rest my head into. The top leg knee is going to point up and the foot on the floor. The bottom leg will be straight and the foot flexed. And I'm using my top hand just to help me to remain stable here. Ready? Take a breath in. On your exhale, you'll lift your bottom leg as high as you can, comfortably, and inhale to lower down. Now, if you're feeling pain from your outer hip on the floor, you can put a blanket underneath your greater trochanter, your outer hip bone. I'll do about 12 of these. Trying to maintain stability through the torso. Couple more. Awesome. Other side. So you can either roll over or you can flip-flop over to the other side. So that top leg, the knee points up, the foot on the floor, and the bottom leg straight, foot flexed. Ready? Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Four more. Last one. Nicely done. Okay, so check it out. We're going to do one more set of squats, and then we're going to do a hip flexor release, but you can also release your low back, and a chest stretch, and then we're done. Okay, so let's go ahead and come up to standing. All right, either a 10 or 15 pound weight for your squat. A goblet squat, holding that weight, one weight at your chest. Find your squat stance, root through those feet. Inhale, sit your hips back. Exhale, rise. Inhale, squat. Exhale, drive through those feet to rise up. Find your rhythm. Find a depth that works for you, that feels respectful. 10 more. Working that back line. Making stronger butts. Stronger hamstrings. Quads. Five more. You got this. I know you probably thought since we were on the floor, we were almost done. We're almost done. Last one here. We are. Okay, so you're going to use your block. And if you have access to a wall for support, I recommend that you use a wall. So, what I'm going to do, let's see, since I'm mirroring you, my left side of the body is close to the wall while my fingertips are on the wall for stability, I'm going to step on the block with my left foot. Okay, that's a size 7.5 block. So it's perfect size for my foot. If your foot's bigger, you might have to, have your toes hang off. Okay, now, I'm gonna move a little bit further away from the wall so I'm not too crowded. That feels better. So I'm gonna stand up nice and tall. Make sure that my pelvis stays neutral. I'm not hiking one hip or the other, so I'm keeping the pelvis neutral. And also, I'm not gonna let my pelvis tip or tilt in this exercise. I'm gonna keep it neutral the whole time, okay? Tummy engaged. Think of allowing that right leg to just hang out of the pelvis. You're not letting the pelvis dip down, but the leg and the muscles around the leg starting to relax. Feeling gravity helping here. Now with that being your main effort of the leg hanging, decompressing, if you will, start to swing that right leg forward and back. Now this is where you're gonna feel like you want to move the pelvis, but don't. And it's not a big swinging of the leg, because then you're using your kicking muscles. Remember, this is more about letting the leg decompress and hang as you lightly let it swing forward and back. Yeah, that's good. And you can feel that your standing leg, the outer hip is working. So this is good for your piriformis strength, your outer hip muscles, your glute medius minimus. Okay, now step off the block, both feet on the floor. Just take a moment and notice how spacious the side is that you were swinging the leg. You might feel lighter, longer on that side. And then of course we want to do the other side. So I'm not going to turn my body. I'm going to still face you. I'm just going to move the block over so that the right foot is on that block. And again, setting myself up so pelvis is neutral. It doesn't move. Letting that left leg start to hang and decompress. Maybe take some deep breaths and focus on your exhalations to help you focus on that decompression. And then with just a kind of a gentleness, allowing that leg to hang and slightly move forward and back. That feels great. You know, this is a longer than normal Warrior Fit class. So I went over a little bit more than I typically would, but I wanted to make sure I got everything in so that everyone felt like they got something out of it. I probably would have added another round of rows, but again, I already packed in quite a bit. So stepping off and just kind of feeling into your body, and hopefully you're feeling more grounded and more rooted. Your back hopefully feels a little better. And as I said before, we're going to stretch the chest. So let's do a yogi variation of a chest stretch. We'll just take the arms back behind us, interlace the fingers. So this also gets into the biceps. I'm just taking the hands away from you, lifting the chest, lifting the gaze so that your eyes are parallel, focused out at the horizon. Good, and then take your hands, interlace them behind your head, open your chest and your elbows out. Keep lifting and broadening the chest. Squeeze the shoulder blades towards each other. Good, and then last but not least, take the arms out into a T, palms face forward, squeeze your shoulder blades towards each other, reach your arms back, your chest forward and up. So a little bit of a back bend through your upper body. Good, okay. Lower your arms down, come into a seat. And I'm going to finish today with a very short and sweet quote from Theodore Roosevelt. Believe you can, and you're halfway there. Believe you can, and you're halfway there. So our mind can sometimes be our main impediment to achieving what it is that we want to achieve, whatever that may be. So just keep in mind that most of it's in our mind, yeah? So sometimes we have to pep talk ourselves. Sometimes we have other people that can help pep talk us, but once we get past that barrier and take the first step, that first stepping stone, it gets easier. So I want to thank you for practicing with me today, and I hope you'll join me for another Warrior Fit class or maybe a yoga class here on YouTube. Thank you. Namaste.